Part 6. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 51. The gap in strength made Shen Xian unwilling to sacrifice high-level swordsmen and wizard apprentices. He ordered them to disperse and retreat. In the field, the fierce competition was deadlocked. Both sides were powerful and there was no reason to decide the winner. After a protracted battle, in fact, the magic points of several people had been exhausted. If they wanted to restore their magic power, they had to rest for at least an hour. The little fire demon retreated 30 meters, and the wizard apprentice retreated 50 meters. Standing at an absolutely safe distance, Shen Xian asked them to start attacking. The little fire demon used a quasi-spell, which did not consume magic points and had a fixed number of uses. In this case, the six-pointed mark on the demon's forehead flashed a dark red-hot beam, and then, as if the demon's low hum from the heart began to gradually spread around. This is the power that can desecrate the soul. When the demon gradually gained the upper hand, the firmness of the ascetic monks behind Riverson was confused and hesitant. Their pious faith collapsed and dissipated, and the body-protecting holy shield condensed by divine power seemed to shatter glass and exploded. Desecration, the special power of demons against gods. Under the effect of desecration, all attributes and skills related to divine arts are gradually weakened or even disappear. It is rumored that the great desecration can make the gods fall, which is also the key to the existence of the kingdom of God not daring to invade the abyss. After the desecration took effect, the second wave of attacks came, and the storm mixed with lava and flames swept through the passage, and the ascetics who lost their body shields fell one after another. In just a few seconds, 3 ascetics ended their lives and returned to the embrace of the gods. Several people upgraded again, getting closer and closer to level 20. Riverson's ritual chest armor resisted most of the attack force. 150,000 lives made him not afraid of any damage. Except for the black dragon in front of him, he had no opponent. I hate him. When can I destroy him? Miss Xiao panted and held the rock pillar in the passage, looking at Shen Xian with displeasure. Staring at Riverson in the distance, he thought for a while, there are 2 ways to cause damage now. The first is to fall from a height. If it exceeds a few hundred meters, it can cause tens of thousands of damage, but it requires the cooperation of experts. Oh. Really? How to do it? Miss Xiao asked with energy. Destroy the dark passage. Shen Xian gave the answer. Some sections of the dark passage are suspended in the air. If the passage is destroyed under such circumstances, there will be an endless abyss under your feet. Calculate the damage according to the speed of the fall. Assuming it is a height of several thousand meters, the damage can even exceed the forbidden spell. However, generally speaking, such tactics are not very common, because no one can guarantee that the opponent has no backup moves, flying or teleporting, and even fighting spirit cultivation to a high level can easily cross a height of 100 meters, so there is no need to be afraid of falling from a high altitude. After listening to Shen Xian's explanation, Miss Xiao suddenly realized, but what about the specific action plan? Fight, Shen Xian said casually. Destroying the dark passage obviously means attacking the passage. Shen Xian has no hope for this, he calculated. 30 little fire demons and 20 wizard apprentices, after deducting the defense exemption from the damage calculation formula, can cause an average attack output of 400 damage/second. A Montanus has a 3-second attack interval, 3000 basic damage, and an average attack output of 800 damage/second. It will take 1 minute to kill Rivers, who has 50% of his remaining health. The ideal situation is not equal to the actual situation. Before killing Rivers, they had been eliminated by Rivers. Unfortunately, even if he proposed a plan to destroy the dark passage, Shen Xian still had no confidence. Looking at Miss Xiao's enthusiastic expression, he didn't want to destroy the girl's enthusiasm, and was thinking about the legendary third method in his heart. The difficulty of the first method is not more difficult than killing rivers. In terms of damage, the Dark Passage may collapse after at least 20,000 damage. Before that, rivers had enough time to escape. Of course, the health value of buildings such as the Dark Passage is extremely vague and difficult to estimate. Shen Xian didn't mention the second method. Simply put, it was to let Riverson commit suicide. If there was a succubus's charm skill, it could be achieved, but it was absolutely impossible under the current circumstances. Shen Xian scanned his advantages. Apart from the army, Spencer's lifesaver could allow him to withstand Riverson's 2 or 3 attacks without dying. Loyal's crystal core could cause about 500 instant damage. There were also Dispel scrolls, Scorching Mist scrolls and Nightfall scrolls that could be used. Not good. Would he give up the fight and escape directly back to the territory? Shen Xian was a player who pursued perfection. He would never give up on what he could do. The reward for killing Riverson was imaginable. How could he leave with the maximum benefit? However, there was still no idea. Riverson was not a low-level NPC. His AI was very high, so he would not be confused by the trap. Miss Yao waved her staff, and the remaining magic power turned into a floating spell, which turned into a huge fireball and flew towards Rivers. As if to verify his statement, the target of the fireball was not the chest, but the solace of the feet. With a loud bang, the fireball shattered into pieces, and the ground shook continuously, but Riverson was as firm as a mountain, standing still. Checking a Montanese's health, there was 40% left. If it weren't for the solidification and transformation, the Black Dragon could easily defeat Riverson. The Black Dragon was proud, and Amontanus didn't want to retreat, he just wanted to decide the final victory. The strong dragon's breath spurted out, and several ascetic monks were easily eliminated. The pressure on the army was reduced a lot. You must know that the units brought are very high level. When new job transfers are developed, they will be the first batch of job transfers. Unit. Simply put, they are all talents. Miss Yao angrily glared at Riverson, who was motionless, and ordered the little Balrog to use obscenity. Several evil rays of light shone in the past, and the success rate was less than 1%, causing spells to fail continuously. However, when Miss Yao thought it was impossible to succeed, the system sent a prompt, the obscenity spell had taken effect. Riverson, who was protected by layers of sacred aura, felt that the power in his body was passing away, and the power of the lance was dim. Evil, justice will eventually defeat everything, he shouted, stabbing Amontan with all his strength. Nice, yes, because he temporarily lost his divine power, the damage he suffered at least doubled. The number of 5,500 damage seemed to float out of his head. Amontanes looked at his masterpiece proudly, and was extremely satisfied with the little Balrog behind him. Little did he know that he was a solid human shield against Riverson. Without him, Shen Xian and the others will not persist until now. It's not that Shen Xian was unlucky. The chance of 30 little Balrogs performing obscene spells 3 times a day was less than 1%, and the combined chance exceeded 10%. As long as there is no bad luck, there is hope that it will be triggered. Taking this opportunity, of course Riverson could not turn defeat into victory. Shen Xian quickly used the Nightfall scroll. Riverson only felt that his vision was blurred and the surroundings were dim. Kratos would not miss such an opportunity and used the Thunder scroll. Several dazzling arcs of light shot out and swept across Riverson's body. The damage was 400, and the numbers 400 jumped up one after another. In 5 seconds, the output of more than 20,000 left Riverson scarred. He was breathing heavily and looked tired, like a candle fluttering in the wind and rain, which might be extinguished at any time. The Lord Knight, who was rarely angry, began to get angry, looking for death. He rushed towards Shen Xian with revenge. It was difficult to understand why he became Riverson's target. Shen Xian gritted his teeth, gripped the Lord's sword and pushed forward. However, beyond the imagination of many people, Shen Xian stepped forward, and the moment he fought with Riverson, he began to retreat again. Rivers pursued him, but Shen Xian moved so fast that the warden could only deal half the damage with the fighting spirit burst from his lance. The distance between 5 meters and 8 meters is the critical range of Doqi damage. If the distance is exceeded, the damage will be completely lost. The opponent has a very high probability of moving the target. Within the distance, all attack damage will be taken. After all, Riverson was a high-level NPC. After 5 seconds of pursuit, he began to shift his attack target. However, in just 5 seconds, his output of more than 15,000 caused his life to drop below 20,000. Hammer of Justice. Riverson used the skill, and in his hand, the restored divine power condensed into a golden hammer, and the storm roared and slammed over. Stunned for 3 seconds, Shen Xian cannot move. Holy Flame Halo. 1 second later, Riverson used his second round of skills. The ground around him was golden and pure white holy flames rose up, burning units within 30 meters at a speed of 250 damage/second. Within 30 meters, except for a few small balrogues who walked into the range without obeying the instructions, the demons and wizard apprentices standing at a safe distance were safe and sound, as well as Haben. Kratos ran out of the range immediately after being touched by the holy flame, because Riverson's attack target has not yet been released, and he walked towards Shen Xian step by step in anger. Evil power, I want to purify you. Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 52. Shen Xian was not far from death, as if the god of death Harlan had strangled his heart. Grinning, his body stagnated, the breath at the neck was difficult to release, and the soul was likely to leave the body and turn into a walking corpse. Holy Light Bullet. Riverson released the third round of skills. The tip of his lance danced a white holy light, and the gathered divine power cut through the suffocating air and pierced Shen Xian's chest, unstoppable, breaking through the plate armor defense, and the offensive continued to damage the skin, muscles, and even bones. The blood evaporated instantly after being destroyed by the divine power, and the violent impact knocked Shen Xian back continuously. Riverson twisted the lance, and the power that bloomed was like a dream. The prompts of damage 900, 300, and the prompts of armor damage came one after another. He concentrated his mind under the simulated pain and stopped his steps. Behind him was the endless abyss. The octahedral crystal flashed with brilliance, Spencer's lifesaver was activated, and the lost life energy was instantly restored. Xiao Yunruo stared at the fierce battle between the two in a daze, even forgetting the time, the purpose, and the gloating desire to see Shen Xian die, and released magic assists without hesitation. In a few short seconds, from the time Riverson made his move to the end, the 7,000 output took away Riverson's remaining life. The symptoms of dying were particularly obvious, his steps were heavy, his vision was blurred, and he just moved forward step by step with the support of faith. Terrible, if the boss was so tenacious, the battles, wars and strategies of Kingdom would be full of fun. Several people sighed, and Rivers released the fourth round of skills, which was also the final skill. He breathed, but his soul was gradually moving away. Feeling the call of Myrindal, he put down the heavy lance, raised his weak hands, and slowly recited the doctrine. His body gradually became ethereal, like an immortal Holy Spirit, all made of energy. His back slowly cracked, and the golden wings slowly spread out. The vast divine power exceeded the limit, roaring like a tsunami, and waves swept across the earth, leaving behind the fear and panic of the demon. Amontanus wanted to get close, but he found that the divine power could resist the might of the black dragon. His feet and arms were bound by the huge force, and it was difficult to walk if it was not level 60, but the original level 120, the strength of the old dragon could easily break through the divine power blockade. Can't help, the dragon language magic swept across the earth, and the ascetics fell to the ground, but here, the situation is irreversible. Is Shen Xian really going to die? Kratos looked nervous, and estimated that the remaining time was less than 3 seconds. Although he met Shen Xian occasionally, the cooperation between the two was very pleasant, so he didn't want to see Shen Xian die. Experts always have some extraordinary abilities. When everyone was worried, Shen Xian also found that Riverson was in a very strong state. He was killing like a last gasp. He knew that he would not be an idiot. He closed his eyes, rolled to the cliff behind him, and fell down. Oh my God, he didn't really jump off the cliff, did he? Haben and Catherine were both guessing, but according to the Lord's habit, he would not do such a thing. Could it be that there is a mystery at the bottom of the dark passage? 10,000, 8,000, 6,000 Riverson's life value is getting less and less, but the divine power around him is getting stronger and stronger. If things go wrong, it is possible that both jade and stone will be destroyed. Miss Xiao's heart beat to her throat, and the little hand holding the staff sweated. She stared at Riverson's movements. Step by step, he slowly approached the cliff. The divine power in his hand finally turned into a sharp blade of dozens of meters, and the power of purification that swept the runaway was released downwards. He chanted in a low, thunderous, and proud tone, "Judgment, the mark of light." Finally, Li Mang completely exploded. The instantaneous light was like the sun, shining on the dark dome above the head. You can see the dust particles scattered all over the earth. All evil cannot escape punishment. Little flame demon, wizard apprentice, swordsman. Countless holy lights were driven by strange power to hurt them. The most serious was within a range of 30 meters. Almost in an instant, they dissipated into nothingness. Shen Xian under his feet could not escape. Strangely, when the scream came, the system did not prompt the news of death, that is, Shen Xian was still alive. If so, why did he scream? Riverson's tired body slowly fell, and several pieces of equipment rolled out. Shen Xian was pulled out by everyone, and then he found that there was another passage at the bottom of the passage. However, what made Xiao Yunruo curious was that the back of his right hand showed some strange patterns because of the baptism of the mark of light. Is it the emblem of Myrindal? It can be said that it is like the mark of some god, emitting a soft halo. What is this? Miss Xiao gently helped Shen Xian up and touched his hand. She felt that there was no difference. Except for the different color, there was no difference from before. Could it be that Riverson's final skill was just to leave such a commemoration for Shen Xian? She would never believe it even if she was beaten to death. Shen Xian retracted his hand that was touched by Miss Xiao and had goosebumps all over his body. He took off his completely damaged armor, sat on the ground and breathed heavily to rest. Kratos and Amontanus ran to the place where Riverson died, picked up a few pieces of equipment, and then returned. NPCs will grab equipment, especially a greedy and shrewd old dragon. Amontana secretly hid the two best equipment, threw a cat's eye stone to Kratos, and gave Shen Xian 2 items. What is it? Shen Xian asked indifferently. After all, the black dragon killed 60% of Riverson's life alone, and it was understandable to distribute according to contribution. Shen Xian held a book and a piece of armor in his hands. Ritual armor, rare, defense 100, defense enhancement 10%, constitution 40, agility 40, magic resistance 5%, immunity to level 1 magic. Design drawings of Bansai Prison, book, rare, increase experience 10,000, improve the creative ability of designing buildings, improve the attributes of designing buildings, and need to be used by units with production type hidden attributes. Hey, I didn't expect it to be the armor worn by Riverson, Shen Xian muttered, but when he saw the strange mark on the back of his hand, his happy mood disappeared completely. Can't I tell you? Miss Xiao asked strangely. Of course. But it has nothing to do with you, right? Why is it nothing to do with you? I care about you. I know, let me see it first. Okay, Shen Xian replied impatiently, and then checked the attributes of the mark on the back of his hand. Mark of Light, status, causes random damage of 1% to 5% of the current health value to units with evil characteristics within 10 meters, and randomly causes negative effects of fear, dizziness, and confusion for 3 to 5 seconds. The range and effect will be expanded as the level increases. Blessing of God / You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 53. Territory. The underground village that had just begun to emerge now has a population of more than 400 people. When Shen Xian returned here after leaving for nearly 10 days, he felt that things were no longer human. Surrounding the statue of the god of war are wide streets that extend in all directions. If conditions are met, they will be upgraded to high-level gravel roads. Countless human refugees live in ordinary houses along the streets. Although they have no combat power, they provide most of the tax revenue of the territory. The current production statistics in the territory are as follows. 750 units/day of wood, 800 units/day of stone, 1100 units/day of grain, 230 units/day of magic crystal, 231 units/day of copper mine, 236 units/day of coal mine, and 56 units/day of mithril. The net output of wood needs to deduct the consumption of maintaining fences, repairing buildings, producing weapons, and making furniture, and the net output is 421 units/day. Similar stones and grains need to deduct daily consumption and production and manufacturing, and the remaining net output is not high. In fact, according to the design of Realm, the economic model of the city is originally like this. Although the city lord has the final decision-making power, the materials and manpower that can be mobilized will not occupy all the city. After reading the report, Shen Xian put the report on the table. Mistrilin and Ilya beside him wanted to say something, but they were bound by etiquette and waited patiently. Shen Xian stood up and walked back and forth. He inadvertently looked at the mark of light on the back of his hand and sighed. Perhaps, the scholars in the desolate city can know the key to solving the problem. Shen Xian thought of Mistrilin's suggestion and the weakness of the peak fortress in magic. He was thinking about when to go to the desolate city and learn the night martial arts provided by the NPC city to steadily improve his strength. Shen Xian came to the mansion of Catherine and Haben. He didn't know if something would happen between the two men and women. Anyway, when he came here, the first thing he did was to ask about the mark of light. Catherine sat on a simple wooden chair, lowered her head and thought, then raised her head and said softly, "Lord, although I don't know the details of the mark of light, I guess it is a special mark left by the gods, relying on the devout faith of believers, and is specially used to punish heretics. The difficulty of removing it is much greater than the difficulty of setting it. The level of setting the mark of light is 70. Does she mean that the special task of removing the mark of light will be a high-level task with a difficulty of more than level 70? Shen Xian thought it made sense, but he couldn't wait. Could it be that he really had to keep this damn thing? Before leaving, Catherine took out her treasured weapon and handed it to Shen Xian. "Lord, I haven't thanked you for taking me in. If you hadn't personally accompanied Huo Ben to rescue me, Huo Ben and I would not have been able to meet until now, so please accept this gift." A slender, slightly curved rapier lay in Shen Xian's hand. The blade of the rapier was not very sharp, but the texture was thick and full of smooth curves. The blade was painted with special patterns that had been processed by magic. The hilt was carefully carved with ironwood produced in the elf forest. The attributes were powerful and it was a rare level. Azure Sky Defender, Attack Power 100, Constitution 30, Strength 20, Agility 20, Divine Resistance 10%, 1% to 5% chance to cause the position to be silenced for 1 to 2 seconds, the negative effect of blindness, Constitution Growth 1, Condition 25 level. Shen Xian held the Azure Sky Defender in his hand, felt the special power coming from the sword, and thanked him. Left. Azure Sky Defender, Shen Xian's evaluation is very good, it can improve physical growth, which means that at level 25, you will get an additional 25 physical strength, and at level 100, you will get an additional 100 physical strength. In addition, the Divine Resistance and Ritual Armor cooperate with each other, and the low probability of negative effects triggering make its attributes quite comprehensive. You must know that although the attributes of epic equipment are powerful, you need to work hard and pay to get them. Epic equipment has its own story, and it will never be easy for players to get it. You have to complete unique, elite tasks and experience the epic plot arranged by Realm before you can use it completely. Level 25, away from there is still a long way to go before reaching level 25, but after going through the regional missions, Shen Xian feels that it will be very fast. During the internal test, his Orc Lord took 30 days to reach level 41. I wonder what results he will achieve during the public test. Opening the rankings, the overall ranking has risen to 2015th. It seems that the insidious system is indeed sharp-eyed and it is impossible to escape its search. After investigating the Mark of Light to no avail, Shen Xian decided to consult Barasa when he returned to the Peak Fortress. Although the barbarian's divine power is poor, the thousands of years of inheritance will not be unknown to the outside world, and perhaps he can get the answer. Back at the gathering center, Shen Xian continued browsing the development report of the territory. Reading a real and handwritten report is different from reading the brief statistics in the status bar. He opened the rough volume. The settlement of refugees and the arrival of wanderers made the village more complicated. In addition to the army he controlled, there were about 300 free people in the territory. They paid taxes and obeyed management. Unlike wizard apprentices, they were responsible for production and received very little salary. The residence structure of the village gradually expanded. There would be the rise of the rich, the birth of the poor, and different occupations. The refugees from afar brought several recipes: Shadow Moon Robe Blueprint, Iron Wing Cross Sword Blueprint. Shadow Moon Robe, recipe, time 8 minutes, Magic Crystal 5, Mithril 1, Wool 10, Ordinary, Defense 20, Wisdom Growth 1, Spirit Growth 1, Dark Faction Magic Resistance 10%, Condition 20 level. Iron Wing Cross Sword, recipe, time 10 minutes, Iron Ingot 10, Copper Ingot 2, Inferior Gem 1, Flax 1, Excellent, Attack Power 80, Attack Speed Enhancement 10%, Hit 5, Special Kill 5, Condition 22 level. I'm home now, and I'll start to update 3 times a day, 12 o'clock, 1800 hours, 2400 hours. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buledin Lau Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 54. At present, the alchemy laboratory in the territory has mastered a large number of formula drawings, including not only those dropped and purchased, but also those that units naturally understand and occasionally learn. Within a radius of 100 kilometers, where there are about 2,500 players, Shen Xian's territory is second to none. Shen Xian continued to read and saw Miss Erin buying elementary scribble notes from a passing caravan, and he praised her repeatedly. Junior level copying notes, excellent, gain 10,000 experience points, enable permission to produce magic scrolls. As explained, primary scribble notes allow Miss Rhine to learn how to make scrolls, completing the manufacturing structure in the territory. A dedicated manufacturing structure can earn a lot of wealth. The problem is that urban development cannot maintain long-term focus. Focus means that the remaining aspects are weak, and it is easy for lurking opponents to seize the opportunity and take advantage of restrictions to attack. What's more, if you want to stay focused, you need to invest a lot of research expenses or purchasing expenses. In kingdom where anything can happen, it is extremely unwise to put eggs in one basket. So, how much gold did it cost to copy notes for a junior level? Shen Xian asked. Miss Erin counted on her fingers and replied, about 1,500 gold. So expensive, Shen Xian exclaimed, you can go to Desolate City to receive magic training and directly learn the basic copying skills. After hearing what Shen Xian said, the girl looked at Shen Xian apologetically, I'm sorry, Master Shen Xian. We can't blame Miss Erin, because her level is not high yet, resulting in low knowledge. Generally speaking, units with high levels will have high knowledge, and they will be more familiar with the world, customs, astronomy, and geography. For example, Catherine has extremely rich knowledge because she is a level 45 unit. Because my knowledge is not high, I don't know much about it, and I don't know that I can also obtain the scroll copying skills through the Curse Academy in Desolate City. It seems that there is a price to pay for cultivating NPCs. Shen Xian can understand the feeling of hoping that his son will become a dragon. He feels helpless while feeling heartbroken and paying for it. Another thing is that Miss Erin finally developed the technology for wizard apprentices to change their profession. Dark Wizard technology allows the wizard apprentice to accept the trial of shadow spells, increase the level to 15, completely master the essence of shadow primary magic, and obtain the silent magic talent and shadow structure talent. Magic is cast silently, talent, passive skill that cannot be advanced, 5% to 20% chance of casting magic silently, ignoring the negative effects of being unable to cast spells, including silence, muteness, wrapping, etc. Shadow structure, talent, let the dark wizard blend into the embrace of the shadow, believe in the guidance of the dark walker, increase the magic effect of the dark faction by 10%, and the magic resistance of the dark faction by 10%. The wizard apprentice transfers to a dark wizard, which requires 6 hours of meditation to experience the depth and breadth of darkness, and then requires 4 pieces of equipment such as Shadow Moon Robe, Devil's Heart, Dark Tome, and Drow's Conspiracy or the same type of equipment. The minimum conditions are level 10, the minimum level after job transfer is 25, the success rate is 5%, and you can try to advance 3 times. The wizard apprentice is finally able to change professions. Of course, there are many conditions required. In fact, there are also many hidden conditions. For example, the number of dark faction magic books in the library is greater than 20, and the number of general faction magic books is greater than 10. For example, the number of magic books in the territory is greater than 20. The tax needs to be greater than 1,000, otherwise it will be unable to withstand a series of negative effects such as the decrease in productivity caused by the loss of wizard apprentices. The wizard apprentice is a half combat and half production unit, and the black wizard is a half combat and half technical unit. The treatment of the two is different. The number of wizard apprentices who can advance to the black wizard is very small, making the value of the black wizard extremely precious, but there the combat effectiveness is extremely powerful. Dark wizards need to master 11 types of dark faction magic and 4 general faction magics, including the summoning of many abyss demons such as lemures, small balrogs, imps, mad demons, and crew demons. If they drive weak lemures, the number is 10. It ranges from 1 to 30. If you want to enslave powerful mad demons, the number ranges from 1 to 2. As for the power of many curses and blasphemies, dark wizards who master more and more exquisitely can use magic materials to enhance the effects of spells. When they reach the peak of dark wizards, they can even incarnate the root of the curse, recite mysterious incantations, and harm distant places. Opponent. In fact, when Miss Erin figured out the job change of the dark wizard, her level had been forcibly raised to level 25. At this moment, she was wearing a black gold-rimmed shadow moon robe, and through the hood, she revealed her delicate and charming face. Fair and delicate face. She looked at Shen Xian nervously, rubbing her jade-like hands nervously, but soon, she saw Shen Xian's face beaming with joy, and her worries disappeared. I think we can adjust our manufacturing strategy now. First, the original manufacturing structure remains unchanged, with a dedicated person in charge. Then, Mr. Aaron, you will be responsible for training the Dark Wizards. Within 2 weeks, I want to see 20 Dark Wizard stands before me. Mr. Aaron nodded happily and said clearly, yes, Master Shen Xian. Outside the village, the huge figure of the dragoon slowly landed. Carlos, the barbarian responsible for liaison with Shen Xian's territory, arrived with the latest instructions from the Pinnacle Fortress Barasa. Recruitment order. Within 3 days after receiving the order, 25,312 players in the Pinnacle Fortress area will report to the unyielding wall of Pinnacle Fortress, purchase military supplies, and accept deployment. In addition, Master Barasa orders you to report immediately regardless of the completion status of the task. The final reward of the task will be calculated based on your completion. Moria City. Recruitment order. Within 3 days after receiving the order, 7,237 players in the Morius area will report to the ceremonial hall in Moria City, purchase military supplies, and accept deployment. In the north of Cold Wind Ridge, the famous North Watcher, Red Tower. Recruitment order. Within 3 days after receiving the order, the 5,698 players in Hungta's jurisdiction will report to the Morning Star Hall in Hungta, purchase military supplies, and accept deployment. A religious holy place in the south of Moria City, the city of Saint Menefer. Recruitment order. Within 3 days after receiving the order, the 9,698 players in the Minefell area will report to the Temple of Strife in Minefell, purchase military supplies, and accept deployment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buledin Lau Buledin Si Buledin Me. Chapter 55. Ruins. There were ruins of broken walls everywhere, and red fire elements and iron-hard arcane guards were charging out endlessly. There were dense arrow towers and crossbows around, and the impenetrable stream of arrows flew like locusts. Even elemental creatures and alchemical devices with extremely high physical immunity were not spared. Enchanted arrows were special equipment that restrained elemental creatures and alchemical devices, but in the territory of the Gaul warriors, this kind of arrow with extremely high technical requirements had been mass-produced. With the help of the ice guards summoned by Saran, they kept repelling the guards rushing out of the ruins. A few days ago, he could have ignited the fuse of the regional mission and become a hero, but someone repaired the arcane hall in the Mage Tower, which doubled the defense here. Not only did a large number of arcane guards and fire elements appear, but there were also many transferred arcane servants and flame guards. However, today is coming to an end. When the Gaul man logged into the game in the morning, he found that the defense of the Mage Tower had weakened. With the cooperation of Nihilum members, they were getting closer and closer to success. Even the great Mage Saran showed a triumphant smile, waiting for the defense of the Mage Tower to completely collapse. Strange. The great Mage Saran had a very bad feeling, as if the mysterious power was gradually fading away. You know, in the magic manuscripts of Leylands, there are no less than 5 Mage Towers in this area. They were built by legendary mages over 100 years with countless manpower. So far, he can only feel the ruins of 2, but he suddenly found that the magic fluctuations emitted by the undeveloped second Mage Tower were gradually disappearing. What's going on? Is someone playing tricks? Through the passing magic fluctuations, Saran's spiritual power penetrated the material and came to the world of nothingness. He gradually approached. It was dark and lightless here. The vague shadows covered the Mage Tower. The buildings and creatures were broken into pieces like sand castles. The core of the Mage Tower gradually left the world, and the power it exuded became weaker and weaker. Saran wanted to stop the upheaval, but it was too late. His power could not compete with the Mage Tower. He could only watch the magnificent Mage Tower gradually disappear into the dark world and completely disappear from the main material plane. His face became ugly and extremely blue. The unyielding wall, the outermost of the 7 walls surrounding the peak fortress. At this time, countless players gathered in front of the wall. Under the command of the barbarian warlord, they chose tasks one after another to meet the coming crisis. After reporting to the warlord, Shen Xian had nothing to do for the time being. He and Xiao Yunruo walked along the bustling streets outside the city wall and could see the special scene brought about by the upcoming war. Countless goblin merchants. In fantasy, goblins are wise and shrewd. Although they are inferior and dirty, their existence cannot be erased. Goblin merchants often sell useful items during wars to make a lot of wealth. They sell teleportation scrolls, rare scrolls that can make you immortal, which can be sold for tens of thousands of gold here. The quantity is limited, so after players buy the scrolls, they immediately sell them at a high price. Rich players who don't want to die in the war buy them one after another, and the transactions are extremely frequent. Small charms, special accessories that can hide nationality. In regional missions, players of the same camp need to fight together. Peak Fortress certainly doesn't want defections and infighting. With this thing, at least, unfamiliar players can't recognize each other's nationality, and won't cause trouble because of historical issues. There are many kinds of items like this, and Shen Xian feels that he is short of money. Except for the price of the small charms, which is only 10 gold, the rest are all expensive. In front of the unyielding wall, several storm dancers guarded several precious items. In the center, Mud's holy book, an epic equipment with ancient texts written on it, is placed. This will be the final reward for the regional mission. Mud's holy book, epic level, defense 150, attribute enhancement 30%, attribute growth 5, with barrier aura level 10, perseverance aura level 10, desperate struggle level 1, can be used once every 3 days, can trigger the heroic quest to find the Black King Mud. Desperate struggle, skill, 30 random targets within a range of 100 meters are affected by the negative effect of chaos, attack power enhancement 100%, defense power weakened 50%, duration 12 seconds. Legend has it that Mud was the prince of the underground dynasty. Because of betrayal, he was exiled to the surface world. 10 years later, Mud led his army to regain the throne. The country became increasingly powerful under his governance, but when he was 40 years old, he mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind unknown clues. Destruction Throne. This was the second time Shen Xian met Barossa. As the immortal tyrant in the legend of the barbarian generation, Barossa inherited the power of the devil and possessed an eternal body of youth. He is a demigod-level existence. So far, there are only a handful of players who can meet him. Except for the players with the highest reputation and the highest level, only a few players who have elite-level tasks involving him have the hope of meeting him. Meeting Barossa is the supreme honor, and he can be respected and admired by the barbarians, but Shen Xian still has no idea in his heart, guessing what the final reward of the heroic level task is. Putting aside experience and reputation, the hereditary knight is the most valuable, and can enjoy 100 units of various resources every day as compensation, and can legally own more than 100 square kilometers of territory. Barossa looked down at Shen Xian from a high place. Although you submitted the report very late, it cannot be denied that you completed the task. After a pause, Barossa was slightly dissatisfied, and Shen Xian was a little nervous. In order to rescue Catherine, he gave up the illusory heroic task. It shouldn't anger Barossa, right? He thought, except for the reward and punishment caused by the time of delivery of the task, there would be no accidents in theory. When Shen Xian was worried, the system prompt came. Tip: the player lord obtained the title of Hereditary Knight of the Peak Fortress, enjoyed resource compensation, and had more authority. Tip: the player lord is the 5th player in the world to be promoted to knight, hereditary, and the reward is 100 add 100 reputation. Tip: the player lord completed the task The Conspiracy of the Silent Tower, and the reward was 1000 reputation, 10,000 experience, and 10,000 gold. Although he did not get any additional rewards, Shen Xian was very satisfied. Compared with the illusory task, in his opinion, Catherine seemed much more valuable. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 56. Lord, you need to complete an important mission. Barbarian heroes all grew up in war. If you want to be respected by the barbarians, you must accept the test of blood and fire. Barosa's eyes seemed to be able to penetrate the sky, and he said in an encouraging tone. Open the taskbar, the task has been completed, but it is not over. Tip: player lord accepts the task Attack on the Tower of Silence, completes the elite level tasks issued by the barbarian warlord of the Peak Fortress more than 2 times, and obtains 500 reputation, 10,000 experience, and the opportunity to exchange for rewards. If the task fails, 250 reputation and 5,000 experience will be deducted. Mandatory task. Shen Xian secretly cursed the system, thinking that he would let it go. With his strength, he would not be able to complete the elite level task. The opportunity to exchange for rewards. What exactly does it mean? He continued to think and looked at the light mark on the back of his hand. Barosa said with an all-seeing look, the brand on the back of your hand is very common, but the problem is that it is very difficult to remove it. Shen Xian wanted to say, of course I know that it is very difficult to remove the brand, otherwise I would not ask you for help. Looking at the serious face of the barbarian lord, Shen Xian did not ask after all, worried that he would accidentally kill him. Who is Barosa? A tough guy who can shake the earth 3 times by stomping his feet. Maybe his strength has reached the realm of killing people with a flick of his finger, silently. Of course, there is no such saying in realm. The wall of unyielding. Looking at the tasks that can be accepted, Shen Xian frowned. The good tasks have been picked up by players. The rest are either simple and unprofitable or difficult and unrewarding. Looking through the list of hundreds of tasks again and again, he did not find a suitable task. Thinking about how the APM of online game players these days can be compared with the APM of esports masters, all of them are scary fast, he saw the barbarian warlord. The warlord also looked at Shen Xian. The two looked at each other. After hearing him cough twice, he said in a serious voice, Lord, because you have a high reputation, you have the right to accept additional tasks. Here are the task scrolls. Please check them. After taking the second batch of scrolls, Shen Xian's eyes lit up. It turned out that these scrolls were prepared for high-level players. They were very challenging, with high task rewards. They required a team of several people to cooperate. If you don't have enough strength, you can't accept the task. At present, the plot is that the coalition forces of the surface world are going to invade the underground world. In order to find the lost treasure, in fact, they are going to divide it up, and they have launched a series of actions. The first step is to enter the underground world. Faced with the number of Legion-level players, the Peak Fortress cannot stand idly by, and the two sides will have a fierce battle. The second step is to find the lost treasure. At present, except for the players who have opened the regional task, almost no one knows what the treasure is. The secret is in the hands of a few people. The coalition forces entered the underground world just to distract everyone's attention and make it easier for the conspiracy planners to seize the treasure. This mission is pretty good, Miss Yao muttered as she flipped through the scroll. Use the secret link crystal to control the use of the maze area of the Peak Fortress, defeat 5,000 troops, and the conditions are 10 players, elite level. Yes, Shen Xian snatched the scroll. The first elite level mission is this. Aren't you going to reward me? This is the mission scroll I found. Of course, but I have to wait until the mission is completed. I'll invite you to Yanji Snack Bar near Xixiao Pavilion. Shen Xian gave a blank check. After thinking for a while, he added, I saw that many players have accepted it, so there should be no problem. Miss Yao looked down on him. Yanji Snacks? You are too much of that. But if they accept it, just accept it. They are the Korean player DK who ranked 33rd in WTP, the Chinese player red-haired ancestor who ranked 89th, and Shen Xian reported many online game masters he saw in front of the city wall one after another. Because Realm builds models based on the appearance of players, and online game masters have fixed game names, it is very convenient to identify them. I see. I didn't expect you know a lot, Miss Yao muttered, and took out another scroll. This is not bad either. Search for the coalition forces in the underground world. You can choose to defeat them alone or report. Defeating them alone can get high rewards of experience and reputation. Shen Xian soon found that this was another good task. For example, secretly let 5,000 troops enter the underground world, set up an ambush, and when they enter the underground, immediately attack them in groups. Isn't this killing two birds with one stone? Of course, it is not so simple to implement. In the dark passage, the underground forces can rely on adaptation and understanding to gain an advantage. When they reach the underground plains, the wide terrain is suitable for cavalry charge or large-scale legion war. The surface world is not so easy to destroy. The main reason is that this is the Dusk Hills. If it is in the Bone Canyon or the Deep Fog Forest, even if the ground is open, it is impossible to fight with the Legion. Or in the Rianway underground maze, this natural underground cemetery, before the army of the underground world comes into contact, the army of the surface world has been killed. Thinking about how all the good tasks went to Miss Xiao, Shen Xian then accepted the second elite task. The number of players participating in this regional task will reach 100,000, so the Peak Fortress uses the reward method of calculating contribution points. Destroying the coalition forces of the surface world, inquiring about the movements of the army, destroying the opponent's camp, and completing elite tasks can all increase contribution points. After the task is completed, the contribution points are calculated, and the player with the highest contribution points will obtain the epic equipment Mud's Holy Book. This is the floating cloud level equipment that makes many players drool. Not only is it unique in the world, it also comes with a high level aura and can receive heroic tasks. Shen Xian felt excited when he thought about it, and he estimated that other players were in the same mood. Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 57. November, 525th year of the glorious chronicle. Moreas. The blizzard has lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. The city is covered in snow under the severe winter. The streets are covered with snow, and the pine trees are covered with thick coats. The cold wind blows, and the biting ice penetrates the cloaks made of beast fur worn by the adventurers, making them shiver constantly. The mages seem much more calm and at ease. They wear robes that are no different from usual, and wear warm sun rings that can bring heat. They talk and argue, showing their uniqueness. Recently, the most sensational news in Moreas is undoubtedly the attack on the underground world. Every year, the Pharaoh Empire organizes a large-scale expeditionary force to carry out aggression wars. The rich underground world is a place that the big men of the empire envy. It produces the mithril and magic crystals that are in short supply in the empire, and it can also allow the army to be tested by war. In any case, in the name of Myrandar, the power of justice should be spread all over the world. The big men of the empire think so. Count Mask of Moreas, Grand Justice Nibber of St. Minifel, and Grand Mage Horst of Coldwind Ridge, the three leaders of the expeditionary force, under the order of Goro, the Grand Inquisitor of the Northern Diocese, conducted a 7-day conscription, recruiting a total of 320,000 troops from the Northern Lords, including 100,000 direct troops, 200,000 vassal troops, and 20,000 mercenaries. The expeditionary force, which stretched for hundreds of kilometers, slowly marched towards the Salentin trace leading to the underground world. This canyon passage is said to be opened by the goddess of dawn, Siluphi, when she killed Xian, the ninth king of the abyss, with the artifact Dawn. It is about 100 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. Unfortunately, the bottom of the passage is connected to the underground city on the top of the peak fortress. This dream city composed entirely of magical power does not need residence or defense. It is a complete battlefield. If you want to enter the underground world, you must first pass through here. At this time, the excavation of the ruins was in sight. The Gaul man seemed to be able to see the goddess of victory, Nines, waving to him. He let out a lewd giggle, and the heavy clouds above his head suddenly broke. A huge wizard tower slowly sank from the sky and began to descend with great force. The Gaul man could not stand, and he howled and shook to find Saran. Unexpectedly, the great wizard had already sensed the whole story and passed the message through the magic crystal. No one would have thought that the Tower of Silence would come. This ancient wizard tower with a long history had disappeared from the sight of civilians for too long. Its arrival often meant unrest and disaster. The Tower of Silence would do whatever it took to consolidate its power. The legendary wizards who explored the mysteries of the gods would not be afraid of the anger of the gods. In fact, in the past few hundred years, the Tower of Silence had challenged the authority of Myrindal more than once. The Tower of Silence is a huge wizard tower, with 500-story spires in the center. Units that can enter have the hope of becoming a great wizard, and then leaving the magic terminal to go one step further. There are 5-level luxurious houses and 5-level noble manors scattered under your feet. Weapon shops, armor shops, enchantment shops, and appraisal shops can be seen around the 5-level garden, but compared to the ground world, this place is simply as gorgeous as a palace. Surrounding the city are hundreds of floating fortresses, which are arranged with special magic arrays, controlled by the great wizard himself. With the cooperation of dozens of apprentices, it can easily output millions of damage. The Tower of Silence has finally arrived, and Jayalogo is very excited. Although he is just a chess piece in the regional mission, in the game, the friendship of the Tower of Silence will make the Nihilum Guild go further. When the 13 members of the Mage Council stepped out of the Tower of Silence, the regional mission finally began. Tip: the regional missions in the Night Star continent, Pharaoh Empire, and Mauritius are open, and players have 24 hours to prepare. The French player who started the mission, Gaulman, was rewarded with 5,000 reputation. A worldwide broadcast is the highest honor for guilds and players. When the world broadcast was issued, hundreds of thousands of players in the Pharaoh Empire were excited. Players who had never heard of Gaulman asked the players around them who Gaulman was. Players who knew him smiled knowingly, thinking that the legendary wretched middle-aged man was going to be in the limelight again. Players accompanying the expeditionary force rushed into the underground world, imagining the holy war with the dark world with high morale, and the players guarding the peak fortress waited quietly, ready to show their skills in the regional mission. In the Black Diamond Tavern of the peak fortress, Shen Xian recruited players with a smile. The elite mission required 10 players, and his army of 100 was obviously not enough. Although Shen Xian is very powerful, he can't fight against thousands of troops alone. Since the system asked him to cooperate in the battle, of course he should take advantage of the human wave and drown the opponent. I thought that the self-righteous Shen Xian didn't like group fights, but I didn't expect him to be so evil and threaten to use the sea of soldiers to force them. Miss Xiao sighed. Of course she knew that this guy would not use his own army. If he wanted to use the sea of soldiers to fill the people, of course it would be best to use other players. Thinking that she was indeed not strong enough, she quickly put down her burden and planned how to snatch experience when planning the mission. The function of the arcane link crystal is to teleport the opponent's unit from the battlefield of the Peak Fortress to the designated location. Of course, it is impossible to teleport to the abyss or the magma. The range and destination of the teleportation are limited. The best choice at present is the maze created. Based on such conditions, Shen Xian began to recruit team members. At this time, several leaders of Zushan sent 3 messages with premeditation. Boss Shen, do you have a lot of thugs here? Thugs? I have a lot of thugs here, but am I short of cannon fodder? Can you provide them to me? Shen Xian answered hurriedly. The 3 leaders replied depressingly with a series of ellipses, and then replied, to be honest. There are still many players here who can't find their missions. Can you contain them? Shen Xian nodded, thinking that I was short of thugs. A few minutes later, he tricked 3 players from the Zushan Guild. Shen Xian's vision was very accurate. All 3 players were at the professional level. Being able to get into the position of the main player in the money-making studio and cooperate with them would definitely be much happier than the idiot rich man who has too much money and no place to spend it. What's the game picture about? Happiness. If some idiots are telling you what to do all day long, they probably won't even ask for money. After booking 3 places, there were 5 places left. He shouted in the tavern for a while, and several players soon came. These 4 players are from the Iron Cross Guild in Germany. The leader, Justice, is unsmiling and has a typical German rigorous style. 80,000 yuan per person, Shen Xian said first, knowing that behind Justice was a famous German energy company. In this case it was better to kill him. In regional missions, the results of good team formation and bad team formation are very different. Many players will pay a certain fee to join a strong team and achieve satisfactory results in the mission. Lord, you should understand that for such an elite team, 50,000 RMB is a more appropriate price. Justice answered unhurriedly, using mathematical principles and economic principles to explain why 50,000 RMB is a suitable price. I know, but in the eyes of the Chinese, 1 is an unlucky number and 8 is an auspicious number, so I hope you can respect our country's customs and pay the 80,000 yuan fee. This Justice doesn't know how to bargain. Shen Xian said that he was speechless. Although he knew Shen Xian very well, he still didn't want to be ripped off in vain. He discussed with the Iron Cross member behind him for a few minutes and hesitated for a long time. Finally, he decided to join his team. Online game DungeonMaster. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 58. The last member of the team is the fallen priest from the Netherlands. He is over 60 years old, but still strong. He participated in CPL when he was young and won the group stage championship. His game level is quite outstanding. He has short silver hair and is a priest who believes in the god of revenge, Hockles. He wears a red and black hating priest robe, a silver skull shield, and an iron-pointed hammer. He looks like a villain. The god emblem is painted on his shoulder, a mysterious beast pattern. It is a hating beast raised by Hockles. It can absorb the life force of the summoner and continue to grow. The fallen priest has no objection to the 80,000 RMB fee proposed by Shen Xian. The fact that online game players rely on charging to make money can be traced back to decades ago. Because of the evolution of the game, the popular profit model decades ago has long lost its place. The previous generation of online game players had to find a new model for their livelihood. The charging of bringing people stood out and was accepted by the majority of players. He was also accustomed to it. Shen Xian's net worth in the game world is over 100 million, but it belongs to the category of real estate. Unlike direct transactions and remittances, he can withdraw money at will in the bank. Occasionally doing fee-based business makes him feel a lot more interesting. After 10 people gathered, he had to publish the maps of the 5 mazes. If the allies could not trust each other, there would be no need to fight the war. Anyway, the village is still a long way from the maze, and it is not so easy for those who want to use it to explore his development. In the small room of the tavern, several people quickly understood the test they were going to face. Of course, the rewards for the tasks were very generous. Completing the task of defeating 5,000 troops can get 30,000 experience and 100 reputation rewards. Completing the task of chasing the army entering the underground world can get 40,000 experience and 50 reputation rewards. What needs to be considered is what kind of tactics to use. In the underground world, because of the defense, the army of the surface world wants to win with a loss ratio of at least 2 to 1. The total number of troops of 10 players combined is 1,500, and the loss ratio of defeating 5,000 troops is about 3 to 1. However, the system does not prompt what the 5,000 troops are. If it is 5,000 dragons, it is theoretically possible. Shen Xian then took them to visit the construction of the maze. Facing the intricate underground maze, everyone said that if there was no such thing, the difficulty of defense would be doubled. Why didn't they think of it when they built it? What they didn't know was that Shen Xian's original intention of building the maze was to receive adventurers, not just for the mission. I believe that after the regional mission is completed, they will step up the construction of the maze to occupy the defensive advantage. Seeing the dream square owned by Shen Xian, everyone envied his dog shit luck, and he was able to occupy such a good ruins. Although they also had such an opportunity, it was either the Shadow Spider Lair or the Tomb of the Nameless Wanderer, and there was very little oil and water. Fortunately, the elemental gate mysteriously disappeared, otherwise if they saw it, it would be difficult for Shen Xian to explain. You know, the fewer people know about the secrets of the territory, the better. They visited the traps again, and they sighed that there is no the most sinister, only more sinister and prepared to learn from them, because the traps in the maze are all arranged in 2 layers, densely packed together. In this way, after the thieves dismantled the traps, the bold army would undoubtedly suffer a round of painful losses. You know, 90% of the thieves will not release skills twice in the same place. In addition to self-confidence, energy is also the key. Time passed by every second. At this time, everyone's army gathered in the Dream Square, including 200 barbarians, 300 humans, and 900 undead. 3 players from the Zushan Guild used barbarians, 2 players from the Fallen Priest and the Iron Cross used undead, and the rest were humans. In addition to the first-level Black Wizard, Shen Xian also included a large number of swordsmen and wizard apprentices. All of them were equipped with magic equipment of level 10 or above, all of which were shining and very cool. Everyone thought that their equipment was quite good, but who knew that they were all dumbfounded after seeing Shen Xian's equipment. Their barbarians were naked and took a level 10 bronze battle axe. Compared with Shen Xian, it was really embarrassing. In addition to Justice, he brought 21st level heavy infantrymen, who looked very imposing. The undead were all naked, and their bodies were full of garbage equipment with few attributes. After the gathering, there were still 18 hours left. Everyone agreed on the defense time and then took turns to go online. Anyway, if they encountered a sleeping situation, they would let the remaining players assist in command, and there would be no problems with the cooperation of NPC elites. Shen Xian went offline and browsed the latest equipment market. Because of the regional missions, the price of equipment has been driven up very high. There are quite a few players engaged in the equipment business. With more people grabbing the cake, the profit will certainly not be much. Players will not organize industry monopolies to control the economy in the game at present, so the weapons business often has losses and gains, which are different. In any case, regional missions have brought the golden season of equipment trading. When the war begins, those with equipment can defeat those without equipment. Whether they win or lose, they need to repair and replenish equipment, so the equipment business is huge. In the Peak Fortress, Shen Xian, who has arranged the mission, set up a stall along the street and asked Miss Xiao to sell weapons. Bronze cross sword, demon staff for sale. The ordinary hawking has achieved remarkable results because of the beauty effect. In a few minutes, countless players gathered in front of the stall and it seemed very popular. These days, it seems that there are quite a few men who like Lolita. Shen Xian shook his head and thought, what's so good about Miss Xiao? Miss Erlin is still cute, and then wandered around. He didn't waste time wandering around. With gold in his hands, he bought some potential items at a low price and sent them to Miss Xiao for sale. At this time, Miss Xiao's sales had achieved a lot of results. Boss lady, how much do you sell this thing? Several players asked this question. Miss Xiao blushed and said, I'm not married yet, call me boss. The joking players smiled kindly and bought the equipment generously. As for the perverts, they still pestered her. So you are a virgin, your breasts are so small, do you want me to rub them and help you check them? Miss Xiao hated it most when others mentioned her breasts. She immediately went berserk. As the saying goes, a gentleman talks but doesn't act, while a villain acts but doesn't talk. Miss Xiao is definitely a model of hands-on. The burning cloud was thrown over, and a few players in their early tens were sent back to the rebirth point in a few swipes. A few hours later, the perverts were able to log into the game and wanted revenge. Please do not try to violate the VIPs of the Peak Fortress, the barbarian guards warned them. Their weapons were ready, waiting for them to take action, and then they would be reborn for free. So the perverts were all scared and ran away, and the triumphant Miss Xiao picked up the dropped equipment and sold it directly. In one day, the result of the sales was a net profit of 25,000 gold. While Shen Xian was surprised, he began to plan whether he should do some big business. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Bulletin Lao Bulletin Si Bulletin Me. Chapter 59. Expeditionary Army Camp. The night was long, and although the sunlight in the underground world was weak, the commanders of the Expeditionary Army still maintained a regular living habit. In the tent, there were simple tables, chairs, and carpets. Earl Mask, wearing armor, frowned and read the report from Frozen Town. Warden Rivers died in battle, and Baron Catherine escaped. At present, except for being able to threaten Viscount Allen, he had no bargaining chips in his hand. Could it be that everything he did was wrong? Must the secret be exposed? Perhaps he had deviated from the instructions of God, but what difference did it make? Soon, the night ended, and the rested Expeditionary Army began to move forward. Under the leadership of the Holy Inquisition Knights, the level 50 dark brown bears and level 30 underground worms in front were easily eliminated, and the army seemed to be in order. Cold Wind Ridge. This is a remote place without sunlight all year round. It is only 300 kilometers away from the Great Snowfield and the Isriat Mountains in the north. The wind is howling and the temperature is extremely low. Both farming and animal husbandry are very backward. Mercenaries and adventurers can be seen everywhere. They fight with the terrifying monsters in the north in exchange for necessary living supplies, which are sold in the south through caravans. This is an uncivilized territory that the gods can hardly reach. Several wizards in silver robes stood on the top of the hill, looking into the distance, and took off their cloaks one after another, revealing their exquisite and almost perfect faces. They have light golden hair and blue pupils. The men look extremely handsome and the women look extremely beautiful. They exude a misty magic around them, like a miracle. The man looked into the distance, smiled, and said lightly, "The first prophecy has come true, Themis." Teredin walked out of the cage of the gods. What will happen in the era of theocracy? The woman was expressionless, like a statue of a god, her lips moved slightly, nothing will happen. It was 12 days later when the expeditionary army arrived at the dungeon, which was extremely accurate. The players were surprised why it was exactly 24 hours. In fact, this was just an adjustment made by the lustful system. It did not destroy the balance, but controlled the marching speed of the NPC. For the players, being able to start the war on time is better than starting early or late. The dungeon is called the Purgatory Corridor. It is not really a world leading to hell, but because the number of soldiers who died here is really impossible to estimate with numbers. In the dark starry sky, endless corridors extend in all directions, endlessly. This is a special effect created by magic, but the players who came here for the first time all showed surprise. They did not expect to appreciate such artistic and abstract buildings in the underground world. There are magnificent buildings on the surface world. The Supreme Temple of Mylendal, the Tower of the God of War, and all kinds of miraculous buildings can not only bring a sense of achievement, but also improve the attributes of the city. However, the existence of the Purgatory Corridor has risen to the level of art, which makes them surprised and curious. Soon, the army that entered the Purgatory Corridor disappeared in the sight of everyone like a mist. Players who know the Purgatory Corridor know that it is the disordered space brought by the teleportation array here that makes it possible for the army to appear anywhere. The army was cut and separated, and the players formed a team of hundreds of people. They were greeted by a team composed of players from the underground world. Both sides had a level 60 NPC warlord. The battle between the three commanders and the Peak Fortress would not interfere with the disputes of the players. After all, the growth of players is limited. If the NPC is forced to interfere, it is estimated that the player will never be the protagonist of the regional mission. Therefore, the NPC can only play a supporting role and wait until the player's strength becomes stronger in the future to have a head-on confrontation. On the surface, there are humans, elves, and dwarves from the Far East continent. Underground, there are barbarians, humans, and dark elves on the second underground layer. Players fight for reputation and experience. In a blink of an eye, the beasts of war devour one life after another. The god of death smiles and takes away the souls of the dead and sends them to the eternal kingdom, Hades. The main battlefield is constantly fighting, and there are also wars in several larger dark passages. Through the secret link crystal, the dark passages near the Principality of Roland and the dark passages near the Bone Canyon are under the command of several major guilds, carrying out elite-level tasks with a scale of 20,000 to 30,000 troops. For the remaining Shenxian, the war also started soon. Outside the bloody forest, the army of the Freedom Guild looked around carefully. They were teleported and quickly understood the whole story. The commander of the guild, Batman, curled his lips and said, "Let's go." Emperor Shishin from the Indian Pasha world and the Nightmare Queen from Australia nodded in agreement. They are the commanders of the army. There are more than a dozen players in the back, but they are not strong. The army rushed into the maze. After being shocked by the Purgatory Corridor, they felt that the design here was a failure. How could the army pass through such a narrow place? The appearance was so simple and rough, it was simply a waste of sacred art. The designer was really not up to standard. They sent hired adventurers into the maze. In terms of the ability to remove traps, the thieves were still the strongest. The maze was newly built not long ago and was not large in scale. The thieves easily entered the second maze from the first maze. Who knew that at this time, a sudden change occurred? A group of skeletons came out from nowhere and surrounded the thieves under the leadership of the white-haired necromancer. After a few rounds of punches and kicks, the NPC turned into a corpse. What happened? Batman asked hurriedly, thinking that the NPC thief had met with an accident, but he didn't expect it to happen so soon. He waved his hand and ordered several adventurers to enter. This time, it included a complete combination of warriors, mages, thieves, priests, and knights. The average level of the adventure team was 30. It was impossible to destroy them without sufficient time. However, they all underestimated the strength of the fallen priest and the Iron Cross members. Although the warriors, mages, and priests formed a perfect iron triangle, the skeleton soldiers, zombies, and ghosts all surrounded them from both ends of the passage. In an instant, the priest was bitten and bitten by the skeletons, kissed and kissed by the zombies, and was attacked one after another and could not release healing magic. The warrior who used the provocation skill to seduce the undead died quickly, and wasted a bottle of fighting spirit potion before dying. Then, the team reorganized and wanted to fight their way out with the combination of knights, mages, and thieves. The knight saw several unprotected ghosts not far away and released curse spells with confidence. The knight was very excited and grabbed the two-handed hammer that could increase the undead's extra killing damage by 20%, and moved forward bravely. The thief saw the knight's move and hurriedly cooperated with him, followed by the mage. Unexpectedly, when the knight was about to attack the ghost, he suddenly screamed. The thief and the priest saw that there was a trap under the ghost's feet. The ghost had no body and would not be attacked by the trap. The knight was just. In just 1 minute, the adventurers were cleared out, and Shen Xian's loss was only a dozen skeleton soldiers. Online game Dungeon Master. Author, Buletin Lao Buletin Si Buletin Me. Chapter 60. Batman is a cautious type. Seeing that all the adventurers he sent out died heroically, he didn't want the thieves to continue to lose, so he ordered the army to prepare to move forward. Their advantage is that they have a large number of cannon fodder, so there is no need to worry. Several one-turn blade dancers blocked the front. When the team entered the maze, they began to gradually split up and split into groups, and headed to various places under the leadership of the players. This tactic eliminated the possibility of being sandwiched on both sides, because the scale of the maze was too small, and the army could even occupy all corners of the maze, eliminating the need for exploration. However, even though there were a lot of cannon fodder, he was still very depressed when he saw the soldiers who fell into the traps. He didn't know which expert he met who could see the players' minds exactly. The thieves removed the traps in front. After removing the traps, who knew that there were traps below the traps? They were not ordinary hunter traps, but magic traps with powerful damage. The damage was 1000, the range was 5 meters, and the number was more than dozens. In a blink of an eye, the soldiers' lives were taken away. Even many thieves died. These thieves hired from the Silver Hand were all experienced veterans who had undergone countless tests during the adventure. They didn't expect that they would fall. Batman realized that he had encountered a master, but he still drove the army to move forward. Here, Shen Xian transmitted the number of enemies through detection magic. There were indeed 5,000 troops. The problem was that there were an additional 3,000 mercenaries, which was enough to make them ashamed. So many, Shen Xian muttered, wanting to use the sea of soldiers to force them, but he didn't expect that he would be forced to be forced. He shook his head, and the fallen priest and the Iron Cross players began to retreat. The first maze was quickly filled with troops. Shen Xian and his teammates retreated to the second maze. Batman also scouted the number of the opponent's troops. When he found that there were not as many as he imagined, he ordered the troops to speed up. Time is life. The sooner you can enter the underground world, the higher the reward for elite tasks will be. Batman's idea was good, but he was soon blocked by the solid defense in front. Several ferocious demons stared at him with cannibalistic eyes and fought desperately. The demons, with the talent of bloodthirstiness and immortal body, can quickly recover from damage and become more and more courageous in battle. Originally, if the blade dancers quickly harvested the demons, the army could advance straight ahead, but the black wizards and wizard apprentices in the rear took turns to release curses without regard for the consequences. The blade dancers were either unable to move or unable to attack. They were hugged by the demons left and right, and all of them cried and died heavily. Batman cursed secretly, thinking that the opponent was ready to fight quickly, and drove the cannon fodder mercenaries in the rear to charge to consume the wizard's curse. The recovery of magic power is very slow. There are rarely medicine-eating competitions in war. As long as the magic power is exhausted, the wizards without combat power are helpless. The cannon fodder is trained by unemployed farmers in nearby towns. They have low combat effectiveness, but it is perfect for eating curses. Batman was very proud and thought to himself that he wanted revenge. The army in the rear stepped up and observed the other side. There were 10 players in total. Justice and the Dragon Slayer priest were famous in the world. Batman recognized them immediately, but there was also a lord. He was familiar, but he couldn't remember clearly. Batman was full of confidence and assured Emperor Shishin and the Nightmare Queen that he could make a lot of contributions after the battle, but he soon stopped laughing. What was beyond Batman's expectation was that the magic power of the wizard apprentice was endless. Not only that, the opponent's command was extremely insidious. The target of the curse was limited to the cannon fodder in the front row. The narrow maze could only accommodate 6 or 7 people walking side by side. After being cursed, the movement speed suddenly dropped, and then a chain reaction occurred, and the army was all blocked in the maze. Shit! Batman roared in his heart. The command here was very troublesome. Often the army in the rear could not accept the order and continued to move forward, so it became more and more crowded. If magic was used at this time, the experience would increase very well. Seeing the army's action slow down, Shen Xian breathed a sigh of relief. If he really let them rush to the front, he would definitely suffer the most losses. After all, the difference in numbers was too great, and 2 fists could not beat 4 hands. Justice issued orders slowly, and the soldiers who acted in unison formed a steel defense line. In team missions, no matter who contributed, every player had to contribute his own strength, otherwise he would never complete the mission. Justice's APM was not high, but strangely, his orders could achieve twice the result with half the effort. The swordsman used by the Nightmare Queen was forcibly blocked outside and could not approach, which made her feel very depressed. The Dragon Slayer priest, the 3 players borrowed by Shen Xian from the heavens, had good micromanagement and were often dazzling. He issued 6 or 7 orders in just 5 seconds, and the barbarians fought with the players' army under his command. The battle between the 2 sides gradually evolved into a tug-of-war. 5 minutes later, Batman gritted his teeth and sent out dozens of hidden magicians. This was the first-level class of the Mage Apprentice, and it was very powerful. The 30-level magicians easily summoned a bunch of damaging magic, causing chaos on the battlefield. If the magicians were not still very weak, Batman really wanted to tear down this broken maze. In addition, Emperor Shishin followed the 60-level Pharaoh Warlord and charged under the protection of the NPC elite. The level 60 Pharaoh Warlord has 35,000 HP and 3,000 attack power. He is wearing heavy armor and lances. He does not ride a horse, but he is covered in iron shells and is no different from a tank. He crushes Shen Xian's army and advances layer by layer. In a blink of an eye, the hard-earned advantage was disintegrated, and Batman led the army to attack in an all-out manner. The 1,000-man dungeon army retreated into the Dream Square. Shen Xian smiled and thought to himself, "Batman, don't be complacent, let Miss Xiao trigger the magic trap." At the exit of the maze, the arranged magic traps exploded one after another under the effect of the burning cloud. The smoke cloud several meters high made the surrounding dust fly. Not only that, the 10,000 damage caused instantly also collapsed the exit of the maze. If you want to move forward, you must clear the obstacles.